Dear viewers, Drishti IAS presents to you a new program, Editorial Analysis. In this program, we will analyze editorials published in major English newspapers such as The Hindu, Indian Express, etc. for effective understanding of students. In this program, we will mainly focus on three things. First, establishing link of the editorial to UPSC syllabus. Second, understanding the main points of editorial under key points. And third, discussing important concepts mentioned in the editorial or which are necessary to understand the editorial. Hope you all like this new initiative of Drishti IAS. Please feel free to give your suggestions and opinions. Today's editorial has been taken from The Hindu, which came under the name Back Home, and it also appeared in Hindustan Times dealing with the same topic under the name COVID-19 Getting Indian Citizens Back Home. And as the name suggests, the editorial talks about the latest mission of Government of India, Mission Vande Bharat. Under this mission, the government has planned bringing back the stranded Indians home stuck in different countries around the world due to this COVID-19 pandemic. Let us see the syllabus link. You can link it with GS2 under Effect of Policies and Politics of Developed and Developing Countries on Indian Diaspora and Issues Relating to Development and Management of Human Resources. Under key points, the editorial talks about situation which has landed these people in different countries and who are still struggling to get back home, and the mission that has been planned by government under Vande Bharat. And this exercise is taking place after nearly 2 months of India's lockdown, since India entered the lockdown phase and it stopped all the flights, international flights to India, and hence these people couldn't get back home. So the government has now coordinated this plan under which these people would be brought back to India. It is likely to be the largest and most complex repatriation mission ever for India and even by the global standards. The plans are to bring back around 15,000 nationals from 13 countries in the first week, and as you can imagine, the mission would go on for coming weeks also because there are too many Indians which are stuck abroad. However, unlike any other past operations in which Indians were evacuated or brought back home, such as in 1990 during Gulf War, the Indians were brought back home. During Yemen crisis in 2015 also, we got our nationals back home. This time, it's not exactly the evacuation program, and government is not literally evacuating. It's only serving as a facilitator to these people because government is not going to bear the cost of bringing these people back home. They themselves will have to pay for their transportation and accommodation, and government will only provide the means to come back home, that is aircrafts or naval ships and all the necessary official permissions and documents required, that would be provided by government. But apart from that, the cost would have to be borne by the evacuees themselves. The mission has been named as Vande Bharat by Ministry of External Affairs, and it is expected to last for some weeks due to a huge number of people who have registered with embassies for evacuation, and these people are between 5 to 10 lakh. The stranded people include business travelers and tourists who were unable to come back because government had put on the lockdown and restrictions on international flights and incoming passengers, hence these people were left behind. There are certain students whose university hostels have been shut down and they have nowhere to stay and continue paying for their living costs. There are also professionals and laborers who are struck there, especially in the Gulf region in the Middle East, because they have lost their jobs due to economic impact of global lockdowns. And as you all know, in West Asia, the oil prices have crashed hugely and the economy has taken a downward spiral. So these people are being fired from their respective jobs and they have no source of income anymore to sustain themselves. Now, according to the standard operating procedure released by Home Ministry, the one criteria that government is applying while evacuating these people is compelling reason for them to return. If it's an emergency, the government is taking these cases first. Now, what are these reasons supposedly? The people whose visas have expired and their stay over there would become illegal, who might face deportation, and people who have family emergencies or medical issues like pregnancy, or students who have lost their accommodation because their hostels have been shut. Apart from this, the government has also laid down stringent conditions which include mandatory institutional quarantine for 14 days after their arrival. That is because these people are coming from the countries which are already facing the COVID-19 pandemic, and there is high probability that these people might bring infection in India and they need to be segregated initially. Now, what are the concerns with regard to this mission Vande Bharat, is since people will have to bear the cost for travel arrangement and accommodation, what if some of these people fail to get this money and pay for this entire travel arrangement accommodation? Would they be abandoned back in the countries where they are still stranded, or they would be left to the peril of virus, unemployment and xenophobic backlash that they might suffer from in the long run? Or would government take the humanitarian ground over here and bring them back? So these questions are still unanswered. More than that, since the government has adopted the criteria of compelling reasons, the people who are in the emergency situations would be brought back first. The diplomatic missions over there will have to actually make a discretionary decision as in whom to bring back and whom to leave behind initially. So this is going to be tough, and it's bound to create certain tensions among the people stranded there because they all are in dire situation and they want to come back. Moreover, economy may lose a significant amount of critical remittance because these people have been fired from their jobs and now they're coming back to India. So it's unlikely that they will find jobs immediately even in India, and they would be losing out on the foreign exchange also for India. However, since these people are skilled migrants, or may be leveraged as an opportunity for India where the skills of these people can be made use of. In the way forward, the editorial says that the returnees, despite the conditions put up by the government like stringent criteria or the cost of transportation or quarantining after they reach home, the returnees are going to be grateful to the government. Why? One, because the Indian diplomats have already been helping them all through this time by giving them information, organizing food and shelter for them. And the airline and naval crew who will bring these people back despite the risk of infection are doing their duty. So these people are going to be very grateful to the government. Big is this challenge going to be for government? There are around 10 to 20 million Indian citizens abroad who are stuck there, of which 3 million is in the Gulf itself. Estimated 10,000 of them have already contracted the virus. So you can imagine the risk of infection and the huge deployment of resources that government needs for evacuating these people is unprecedented, and no other country in the world has faced this challenge. Almost since these people have to put in mandatory 14 days quarantine, the government will have to make adequate facilities and makeshift centers to accommodate these people. Now 10,000 people have already contracted the infection, so you can imagine that there might be a possible second wave of infection in India as well. We are already fighting the infection which is already there, and upon that there is going to be an added burden through these expatriates. There has been drop in oil prices in West Asia and downturn in global economies. We can expect even more people in the coming days to apply for returning. Looking at all these challenges and the experience till now, government should mandatorily have a better system in place so that people are not left to fend for themselves and government is there to help them out without compromising on the safety and security of the Indians. Let's see the key concepts. We talked about Indian expatriates. An expatriate is a person who's temporarily or permanently staying in any other country rather than of his citizenship. That is, if an Indian is staying in US or UAE for permanent duration or temporary duration would be called an expatriate. The Indian diaspora, however, encompasses a larger group who can trace their origin to India. They need not be Indian citizens, but they can trace their origin, or they are Indian citizens living abroad. Both of them would comprise Indian diaspora. So Indian expatriate can be subsumed in Indian diaspora. Indian diaspora constitutes NRIs, PIOs and OCIs. Now what is the difference between these three? An NRI is a citizen who is ordinarily residing outside India. He is a citizen of India. So that it's non-resident Indian. So when you say Indian, that means the Indian citizen. And holds an Indian passport. PIO is person of Indian origin. When you expand this term, it's person of Indian origin. That means he can only trace his origin from India. He need not necessarily be an Indian citizen. So a person who or whose any of ancestors was an Indian national and who is presently holding any other country's citizenship, not necessarily India's, and holding a foreign passport would come under PIO. Whereas OCI is overseas citizen of India. Now again under the name there is citizen of India, hence they are registered as Indian citizen under Citizenship Act 1955. Only PIO is person of Indian origin and he is not a citizen of India. However, in 2015, government made certain changes and PIO and OCI card holders were merged under OCI category. So now everybody who's staying abroad and if he or she is holding the Indian passport or Indian citizenship would consider as OCI, and there is no category of PIO left anymore. What is Indian diaspora giving back to India? It's become more vibrant than ever before with greater participation in India's development by way of remittance, investment, and as you know, there's been considerable lobbying for India and promoting Indian culture. So it's helping in inculcating India's soft power abroad. So obviously this diaspora is a huge asset for India, and in this hour of need, we cannot just abandon them. As of December 2018, there are 30 million Indian diaspora globally. Of this, in Gulf countries itself, there are around 8.5 million, which includes 6 Persian Gulf states of UAE, Saudi, Oman, Qatar, Bahrain, and Kuwait. In United States, after Mexico, it's the Indians who are biggest immigrants in US, and there are around 2.4 million Indian immigrants as of now. United Kingdom also holds huge population. Around 1.5 million Indians are living in UK, and they constitute the largest foreign-born population in UK. The NRIs in China has crossed 50,000 as of now, many of whom are Sindhi businessmen who are creating economic ties with bases in Southeast Asia. So these are the major countries where Indians are residing outside India. If you see remittance-wise, India has received the highest remittance of around $78.6 billion from Indians living abroad in 2018. This is the 2018 data. And if you see country-wise, the UAE accounts for largest remittance, then US, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait. So it's the US which is an anomaly over here. Rest all are Gulf countries. You can remember this information for your prelims. If you look at state-wise total percentage of remittance, it's the Kerala who receives the biggest remittance. Then comes the Maharashtra, 16.7%, then Karnataka, and then Tamil Nadu. So you need to remember these 4 states, Kerala, Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu by way of remittances. And only then you come to the North India, that is Delhi, at the 5th position. Now if you see the NRI deposits, that is how much NRI is depositing their money within. The share of 6 Gulf nations has risen from third to half over past decade, while the NRI deposits from North America and Europe has declined in the same period. The 3 leading sources are UAE with $33 billion. Maximum NRI deposits are coming from UAE, then US, then UK. So over here, the UAE and US are same as remittance position. The highest remittance were coming from here, and even the NRI deposits, while the UK comes third over here.